Coco Gauff must have seen this tweet because the way she came out and handled Marta Andreeva like that was something. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post my next Madrid Open video. I know I kind of went AWOL on y'all for the past week, which I am sorry for, but I'm back just in time to talk about the business end of the Madrid Women's Tournament. Defending champion Iga Swiatek was the first woman to punch her ticket into the semifinals with an interesting love 6, 6-3, 6-2 comeback win over Madison Keys. Of course, Keys won their last meeting before this one, which was in the Australian Open semifinals. That was an epic match, currently my match of the year, where Keys, she saved a match point en route to both winning the semifinal and winning the slam. But Iga, she did have a slight edge coming into this match as she led the head-to-head 4-2, and three of her wins, Iga's wins, came on the clay and in straight sets, as she had never lost a set against Keys on this surface. And they actually played here in Madrid last year in the semifinals, which Swiatek took pretty comfortably, 6-1, 6-3. However, I still felt that Maddie had a solid chance at getting her first win over Iga on the dirt because Madrid is played in a higher altitude, so the ball goes through the court a lot faster here in Spain, and that would favor, obviously, the bigger hitting Keys. But nothing really could have prepared me for that first set, which, of course, Madison took 6-love, bagel set, and that was the first time that Iga had been bageled on the clay in 6 years, and it was the first time that she'd been given a bagel set period since the 2021 grass season, I think in Eastbourne, by Daria Kasatkina, of all people. Keys was phenomenal from her serve in the opening set, as she made 75% of her first serves in, and she won 92% of the points whenever she landed that first serve. And when you have stats like that, you're just not going to get broken, simple as that. And she didn't face a single break point, in fact, in that opening set. Iga, meanwhile, had a poor 47 first serve percentage rate, and her winning just 29% of points behind her serve. That just tells us everything we need to know. And it didn't help Iga's case that she was just overall sloppy from the ground, just mistiming balls, and she ended up with 10 unforced errors to just 4 winners. Keys deserves some credit too with her solid returning and overall depth of shot. Now, in the second set, Maddie started to misfire badly in this second set. And in her defense, the win became a little bit more of a factor, but she also just netted way too many ground strokes too. It was just like the old pre-Grand Slam winning Madison Keys came back. And Swiatek, meanwhile, she started to cut back on her unforced errors, and that allowed Maddie to miss more. Swiatek also had considerably more success on her serve, thanks in part to her first serve in rate improving in set number 2. Maddie's, meanwhile, she was not able to land as many big first serves, and that's a trend that continued in the deciding set. Now, still, I felt that Maddie was going to be the favorite, and I felt that she was going to have the edge to win this match in 3 sets because, first, Maddie, she had a perfect 9-0 record in 3-setters in 2025. Iga, meanwhile, was 4-3 coming into this third set. And then also, I think Maddie started to play better tennis overall in that second set, towards the end of the second set at least. I think that Maddie had an opening, really, to take control of the third set in her first return game when Keys was up 1-love, but she just let Swiatek right off the hook with really just poor, uncharacteristic, well, I don't know if it's uncharacteristic because we're talking about Madison Keys, but just poor, unforced errors. And Swiatek, she ended up breaking first at 2-all, and that crazy deuce point in this 2-all game, which Iga won, was just, I think, huge. And I felt like Iga getting the break was the final nail in the coffin, and it really was, as Keys did not win another game after that. Now, Iga has not played her A-level tennis throughout this entire tournament, but she has been solid overall, and I think that that's been enough to get her through these matches. I'm going to talk about this more later, but I think that she does have to raise her level another notch if she wants to defend her title. A lot of this was really about Keys' level dipping low, and this is also Maddie's second career loss after she bageled an opponent. The first one came against another world number 2, which was Aryna Sabalenka, when she was ranked second in the world, and that was, of course, the infamous 2023 U.S. Open semifinal, where, again, Keys won the first set 6-love, but then lost the final 2 sets, actually in 2 tiebreakers. So maybe it's something about Maddie, like, mentally winning that first set and then trying to maintain the level. It was just a little bit challenging for her. I thought that Iga's post-match reaction to winning this one was interesting because she really had no reaction. It was kind of like ice cold, and I feel like that was due to her just not being that satisfied with her level. I think that's a good sign if you're an Iga Swiatek fan. Like, she's not really satisfied with just scraping by with her like B or C level. She wants to improve. The level in this match really wasn't that great at all, especially it did not compare to that epic Australian Australian Open semifinal that we saw. But on the positive side for Swiatek, a win is a win, so it's another win in her column. And she hasn't really been able to properly problem solve whenever she isn't at her best in various points this season. So now that she is starting to do that, we saw that in her match against Dana Stander yesterday, and now here against Madison Keys. That's only great signs for things to come for her. And I feel like it's a bad sign for the field for sure, because if Iga's winning these matches, not playing her best, just watch out when she starts to hit her stride even more later on in this clay swing. Now up next for Swiatek is of course Coco Gauff, who got a 7-5, 6-1 win over the newly minted 18-year-old Marta Andreeva. This is their first meeting in about a year and a half. Their last meeting was at the 2023 US Open, which Coco won 6-3, 6-2. And before that, their first ever meeting was at Roland Garros in the third round in 2023 as well, which Gauff took by a score of 6-7, 6-1, 6-1. And really, the odds makers had Andreeva as the favorite, which is understandable considering how Mira has been in better form overall this year coming into this match, even though she was 0-2 against Gauff. I initially had Mira winning this match before the tournament even started because I had these two coming to meet each other in the quarterfinal. But in my scrapped quarterfinal preview video, I had Coco coming out on top of this match because I felt that she was just rounding into form and playing better and better and better. And also one thing about Coco is that she plays much better whenever she's somewhat of an underdog and whenever she has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder. And like I showed with that tweet earlier, people were kind of talking ill on Coco's name and saying that, oh, Mira is everything what we thought Coco would be. So I knew that Coco would come out kind of with a little bit of a different swagger, and we definitely saw that here. Now, the first set in this match was completely opposite from what we witnessed in the Keys Swiatek quarterfinal. There were so many ups and downs, twists and turns, and Coco got broken right off the bat to start off the match, but she saved a couple of game points the following game and broke back on her fifth opportunity. Coco had a chance to really take control of this first set when she held 3 break points at 4-3, but Mira's serve was also very clutch, giving her credit too, and whenever her back was against the wall, and she was able to escape. And Andreeva, once she got off that tight game, she immediately broke at love to serve for the opening set. And Mira had 2 set points at 5-4, 40-15. But this is where the match completely turned around. I got to give it to Coco because she really just totally locked in from this point forward and really started committing with her winning game plan. And to me, that was committing to going backhand to backhand against Mira, who is often very keen to change direction. That's why often she's so successful, but she wasn't successful doing that at all today. And many of those backhands down the line that she tried to redirect sailed wide or long. And perhaps I think it could have been an altitude thing, but also Coco's backhand is world class. And Mira isn't used to facing someone who hits that backhand so cleanly as Gauff does. So I think that's another asset for Coco that she was able to take advantage of in this matchup. And really there was so much clarity with Coco and what she wanted to do that we haven't really witnessed in a lot of her matches this season. She had a clear game plan, and that's ultimately why she was so successful for the remainder of the match. After Coco saved those set points, she really steamrolled, and of course the rest of the match. But in the opening set, of course, she won the last 13 of 15 points to seal this opening set, and eventually she won. At one point, she won 18 of the last 21 points played, period, which is incredible. Her level and confidence only continued to grow in the second set, and it was really the inverse for Andreeva. Gauff won 16 out of 17 points on her serve in the second set, which is really, it's unbelievable. Mira, meanwhile, she only managed to win 9 of her 20 points on serve in set number 2. We talk so much about how a lot of Coco's game is rooted in how well she's serving, and that's still very much true, but I think it's understated, and it's often, we don't talk about how important the return is for Gauff. Gauff's return was extremely solid in this match, and she made an incredible effort to really just make Andreeva play. She wasn't really hauling off and blasting returns, which we've sometimes witnessed a lot in her recent losses. She gave herself an opportunity to win the point herself, Coco did, by kind of using a lot of shape, a lot of height, a lot of heaviness on her returns, and ultimately she was very, very successful on that front. And I think her return success actually bled into other aspects of her game, of course, the serve, but also her just overall ground strokes, because she was very consistent from the ground, and it gave like United Cup Coco Gauff the way she was playing out there. And I think that Coco just being so solid from the back of the court only made life harder for the error-prone Andreeva. This is definitely Coco's best and most impressive win since the United Cup where she beat Iga Swiatek in the championship. And one thing I found interesting that Coco has talked about like previously, recently, is how she's been letting the conditions and spin do the work for her. Of course, I mentioned to the altitude, it tends to make the ball kind of bounce a little bit higher at times. And Coco, she already gets a lot of work on the ball with her heavy and spinny forehand, and she was able to use that more to her advantage here in Madrid. And that's why she was ultimately able to make her first, not only her first quarterfinal, but now her first semifinal in the Caja Magica. She really did well to break down Andreeva that way with the spin and just her heaviness of shot. And that's another important thing. Coco deciding to play doubles alongside Robin Montgomery, I think helped her kind of get her overall groove back, just having more match reps. Overall, I think it helped her. And not only from the net aspect of things, her being more comfortable coming to the net, but just, her serve, her return, everything. So I think that was a good move. And perhaps Coco should look at potentially playing doubles more often year-round at the big tournaments. Gauff and Montgomery, by the way, they made the quarterfinals before they fell to Azarenka and Ashlyn Kruger. Looking back at where Coco started the tournament to now, it's like night and day. And it's so good for her that she was able to survive that tough, rough opening round match against Diana Yastremska, where she was bageled herself in the first set. And I think perhaps having such a hard match like that lessened the tension for Gauff, because she knew that she could only play better from here on out. And I think that also she just gradually raised her level this tournament match by match by match. And I think she really is back in her United Cup form. Speaking of the United Cup, that is the last time that Coco and Iga played one another. Gauff, she defeated the Pole by a score of 6-4, 6-4 in that championship back in January. This was a very high quality match. Right now is one of the top matches of the year, might be top 5 matches of the year on the women's side. And there were so many incredible, entertaining rallies, but it was just really Coco who was the stronger of the two, and she outlasted and ultimately physically struggling Swiatek in the end. And that's not to take anything away from Coco, because she simply was the better player, and she outplayed Swiatek. The meeting before that at the WTA Finals was a bit more about Iga playing poorly. Coco didn't even play that great herself, but she still came away with the straight sets, 6-3, 6-4 win. And still, though, even though Coco has won their last 2 meetings, Iga leads the head-to-head. It's still relatively lopsided, 11-3. Iga is 5-0 against Coco on the clay, 10-0 in sets, and the last time they played on the dirt was at Roland Garros last year. They also played in Rome last year in the semifinals. I don't see this match being as straightforward at all. And Coco's serve and forehand definitely were major issues in a lot of their previous encounters, but judging from that Andreeva match, that shouldn't be really a big factor at all. Since the Asian swing especially, Gauff has really altered her game to be more aggressive off that forehand wing especially, and just taking chances, This was a necessary change for her to beat Iga, and being able to kind of attack Iga and go at her more and exploit that sometimes shaky Swiatek forehand. And also, of course, Coco having a more stronger, reliable forehand prevents Iga from breaking her on forehand down. A lot of times, Coco's forehand just broke down, and I think it had to do with just the mental aspect again of Coco not having a lot of confidence against Iga. I truly do not believe that the head-to-head is a big of a factor at all right now. So much of it, again, was mental, but Gauff has won their last 2 matches, and she should have total confidence that she could win for a 3rd consecutive time, especially after that great Mira win. And looking at Gauff's post-match press conference comments, she shares similar sentiment.
Yeah, I think just belief. In the beginning of our matchups, she was a top player, and I felt like I maybe kind of wrote myself off before the match even came, and now obviously I have a lot of belief. And yeah, she's a tough opponent, and yeah, I don't think about that head-to-head anymore. Maybe at the beginning I did, but now I just treat it as a new match, new opportunity each time, and I'll go out there with confidence, and I believe that I have the game that I can win the match.
And while we can say that Coco has gained more confidence, we can also say that Iga has lost a little bit more of her moxie. It's one thing, too, when you are beating someone or you lead the head-to-head so much, you have so much more confidence when you face them. Now, Iga has lost her last 2 matches against Coco, but also I think overall she's lost a little bit of her edge ever since that Olympic semifinal loss, and of course, too, recently, this Australian Open semifinals loss. I don't think she's totally out of the trenches matches in a way that I feel like Coco is now with these recent wins over Bencic and Andreeva. I feel like this is going to be the next big test, the biggest test for me with Iga and her kind of getting over this hump of her somewhat of a skid in her results. Even though Swiatek has been consistent this season in making the quarterfinals of all WTA 1000 tournaments played this year, she still has not made a final since Roland Garros 2024. And as I mentioned before, she just has not been playing all that great recently, even in this tournament. I think that if Iga plays like how she did against Keys, she'll lose. I don't think it'll be enough, especially with how Coco played. And I don't think that Gauff will afford her the same easy errors that Maddie did. We're going to have to see a level from Swiatek that we have not really seen since Australia. That's a little bit of a tough ask, but it's still, of course, very possible. And it's Iga we're talking about. And two, we have to remember the revenge factor and how Swiatek is going to be very eager to get revenge over Coco, and she very well might wake up. I do anticipate Iga improving her level from what we've seen in this tournament, and I think that's why I have her taking a set here, but I still do not think it's going to be enough to beat Coco with how well Gauff has been playing her last few matches. Another interesting aspect is that these two are kind of playing for the world number 2 ranking. Coco, she already returned to world number 3 with the semifinal showing here, surpassing her countrywoman Jessica Pegula. But if Coco wins the entire tournament, she's world number 2 again, and that bumps Swiatek down to number 3. That might give Iga another chip on her shoulder, knowing that Coco is kind of close and nipping at her number 2 ranking, and I might give her added motivation. But still, I'm going to go with form right now, and that edge brings me to having Coco win this match in 3 sets to make the championship. Now, Elina Svitolina, she was the third woman to punch her ticket into the Madrid semifinals. She scored a dominant 6-2, 6-1 win over Moyuka Uchijima. I got to give Uchijima her props, even though she got really dominated in this match. She had a great run to the quarterfinals, her biggest quarterfinal period. She beat 3 seeds en route, Ons Jabeur, Jessica Pegula, and Ekaterina Alexandrova, so props to her. And I think this is going to be one of many great results for her career. She's very talented. Talking about Svitolina, she's been playing exceptional tennis this clay season. She's currently riding an 11-match win streak, and all those matches came on the dirt. She picked up that title and run the week leading into Madrid. She's also not dropped a set, which means she is 22-0 in sets. And this week in Madrid, she scored some really strong wins. She beat the likes of Rybakina in straight sets and, of course, Maria Sakkari. And what's interesting to me is that I kind of wrote her off because she had never made it past the third round in Madrid before this year, and now she's in the semifinals playing some of her best tennis. To me, Elina has flown under the radar this entire year. She's had really strong results. She made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open and Indian Wells, losing to the eventual champion both times. She's always done really well on the clay too, and she's a great mover and very consistent, and I think the biggest improvement to me is her more willingness to take chances, as well as her serve has become more of an asset and strong weapon for her. Editing took longer than expected, so I can still talk about the Sabalenka-Kostyuk match, which finished, of course. Sabalenka won this one in 2 tiebreak sets, and it was really truly a topsy-turvy roller coaster match. Sabalenka did not play her best by any means, but she still got the job done, winning in 2 tiebreak sets. A trademark Sabalenka just drama-filled fest. Sabalenka, she saved 13 of 16 break points faced, and that continues a trend of her just being so clutch, as in her 4th round match against Peyton Stern, she saved 12 of 13 break points faced. She also saved 1 set point in the opening set and then 2 set points in the second set tiebreaker. Sabalenka, she had match point herself at 6-5, but was unable to convert. And there was some drama in the tiebreaker too, as at 4-5, the rain started pouring down a little bit heavier, and Sabalenka asked the umpire if they could stop and if the roof could be closed, but the umpire said no. And she missed her first serve, and then when she was getting ready to serve her second serve, the rain, I guess, became a little bit heavier, and Sabalenka just ultimately refused to stop playing, and the umpire finally listened to her and announced that the roof would be closed, and she awarded Sabalenka another first serve. And Kostyuk was not happy with that because she felt that Sabalenka stopped play. It was her own doing, so she should still only have to serve that second serve once the roof close and play resume. I think it was the right call ultimately for the umpire to award Sabalenka the first serve, but it shouldn't have never gotten there to begin with, because the umpire should have listened to Aryna the first time and closed the roof before she even served her first serve. But regardless, it didn't really end up mattering because Sabalenka lost that point anyways once play resumed, but she just showed that why she really is the world number 1. Her mental has become really bar none now. She really is that woman when it comes down to being clutch. So full credit to Sabalenka. Again, wasn't her best tennis, and I think she is going to have to play better tennis against Svitolina if she wants to make another Madrid final. Also, one more thing. I know some people were a little bit up in arms about Kostyuk not shaking Sabalenka's hand after the match. Really, I'm kind of like tired of the whole discourse with the handshakes. We know that Ukrainian players are really never going to shake Belarusian or Russian players probably ever, regardless of what happens, I think. So I really think the discourse is tired. Even if Svitolina wins against Sabalenka, she's not going to shake her hand. So really, I really wish we could just wrap this whole thing up. She does have a 1-4 head-to-head against Sabalenka. However, Svitolina's lone win against Big Lenka was on the clay back in Strasbourg, I think in 2020. And also their last meeting on clay. Really, Svitolina should have won. She had 3 match points, but was unable to come out on top of that one. It was their Rome round of 16 clash from 2024. Really, I think that Svitolina has a great shot at making the finals. Sabalenka, even though she has looked solid leading into the tournament, I'm watching her match against Kostyuk now, and she's not looking that great. She's really struggling immensely on her serve. So if she doesn't get her game together, Svitolina will send her packing. So intrigued to see that. Anyways, that is all I have for this one. Let me know your thoughts on this upcoming Swiatek and Gauff meeting and whether you agree with me and having Coco take this one, or do you think that Iga will break the semifinal losing streak and finally make a final? Again, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post my next Madrid Open video, which is coming soon. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.